You mentioned, you used to work for Disney. What was the impetus for your departure, and like what was it that led you to start your own or branch off on your own? So
Yeah, and obviously there's gonna be lots of elements of faith in my story. I've already kind of hinted at that, but really the reason that I left Disney, and I'll back up before that and just say I went to California Institute of the Arts. I grew up in California. And I have a twin brother. We were drawing together all the time as kids, and very much like a cartoonist. And we would draw comic strips for the high school newspaper together, write and draw those, and then into junior college. And then one day, a friend of ours, Eric Stefani, this is Gwen Stefani's brother.
oh,
Wow.
I'm just to throw that in there.
she's just a girl.
Come on.
Good. She came to our wedding, not my brother and mine, my wife.
I think we got that.
Instantly sounded bad. Anyway, so he had showed us this clay animated thing that he did, and this was just out of high school, about a year or so out of high school. And we were amazed. We thought, because this is back in like I said, this is like mid 80s. And we thought, oh my gosh, you have to have a huge budget and a production company of hundreds. Like the sort of behind the scene making of videos and things like that hadn't really come out yet from the Disneys of the world. And so there was still a lot of mystery of how animation's even done. So he does this stop motion little clay thing, and we were just blown away. And that's what hooked us. We then got together with him and another friend, and we made a little clay animated, music video actually to a song that we really liked. And premiered that. It was like a church youth group thing, and we come out. Everybody else is making like slideshows with just photos, and they made their own little music video, and we come out with this full-on animated, epic, and kind of blow everybody away. And so, a little accolades went a long way, and hearing just clapping was like something I was like, I want this again. So that just drove us to find out about CalArts, California Institute of the Arts. It was a school in California that was founded by Disney. He was part of putting that together, and a lot of his animators have learned from there through the years. And John Weber, one.
Awesome guy.
Animation teacher. And so anyway, then that got us into Disney. And so going there for a year and a half, they looked at portfolios. We both got in. From there, we kind of split up. He stayed in California. I was in Florida, but so most of my career was at the Florida Disney animation area there. And it was on tour too. I don't know if anybody went as kids to Disney MGM Studios, but I was one of the artists that you could come through and see how animation is done. But we were actually working on pieces of Beauty and the Beast.
They used to do the how-to classes and stuff too, right?
Yeah. That was a little bit later. That was after they shut that down. But during that era of the how to draw Mickey classes and things like that they would do, there was also a video of, and this was in California Adventure at one point, the Florida Disney MGM before it became Hollywood Studios, and then in Paris. But there was a video where animators, Mushu would kind of host this thing and talk about how animation's done. And I was in that video. I'm talking to Mushu. And so a younger version of me sat around Disney for about 10 years. I'd get nobody ever recognized me on the street of like, I saw you for 15 years in Disney, because I just looked so radically different. I lost all my hair right after I shot
Does
that.
Mushu still look the same? Does he get recognized?
He gets recognized a lot.
Talk to Eddie Murphy?
Yeah.
You talk to Eddie Murphy?
What's that?
Talk to Eddie Murphy?
I did. I met Eddie Murphy during those days. I met Eddie Murphy a couple times. Yeah.
So, can I actually ask you, before you designed Mushu, did they already know that they were going to use Eddie Murphy as the voice actor?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
The long story short on that is I came on very early I was one of the, maybe a handful of animators that came on to Milan very early while we were still refining the script, rewriting and all that. And so at one point it was going to be called Yin and Yang, and it was going to be Cricky and a dragon and a cricket. So Cricky became Cricky, and Mushu would have been Yin or Yang. I'm not sure which. And then there was a Phoenix and Mushu at one point, and that was another Yin and Yang version. And then they narrowed it down to no, let's just do the dragon, and they threw out the cricket, and then they brought the cricket back. Anyway, but voice casting wise, early on I did an animation test with Joe Pesci. They were looking at Joe
that's
Pesci.
hilarious.
His distinctive voice is Eddie too.
Yeah, different kind of wise guy, I'd say. But yeah, that was a path they went down. But ultimately, it was Michael Eisner that made the decision because he had a relationship with Eddie. Basically, Eddie owed him, is the way I think you put it, because Michael Eisner was the president
Before the Bob Iger era.
Yeah. And so because Michael had come from Paramount before he was at Disney, he was the president there. That's where he greenlit Trading Places and Beverly Hills Cop. So 2 movies that really made Eddie's career.
Wow.
So anyway, he just called him up. And Eddie wasn't that into it, really. He had kids, young kids at the time. So I think he saw the value of having his kids think he's pretty cool for doing an animated thing. But other than that, he was a professional. That's the way I usually put it.
That's how the adult actors are now when they go to do superhero movies. They're like, well, my kids liked it, so I'm going to go and...
Well, it's funny. I think even Trey Parker was in one of the Despicable Me films, which is really funny, which I imagine probably had something to do with a kid. But I think he has a kid. But part of what I want to ask you about, too, is as you were doing those animation tests for his character, I mean, first of all, did you do animation tests before he was cast? And then how much of the characterization changed after he came on?
Yeah, so after the Joe Pesci thing, and I didn't even totally finish that test, they came along and said, oh, stop that. Now we're looking at Eddie Murphy. It happened almost overnight. And they were like, what do you think about Eddie Murphy? Like they were really going to do what I wanted. but they asked. It was very nice. And so I said, well, yeah, I mean, I couldn't wrap my head around it. I'm going to back up and say, no, I didn't say, well, yeah. I was like, wait, Eddie Murphy? Because
I will quit. Absolutely not. You cannot bring Eddie Murphy on.
I mean, well, we all know what the movie became, and we just sort of accepted it by the time it came out. But imagine being on the film where every other character is Asian cast. Like, they were trying to be very careful about getting actual Chinese actors. And Mushu was the only one that all of a sudden they went, boom, way over here and said Eddie Murphy. I mean, it just didn't, at the time, didn't make any sense. But then they started rewriting the script and kind of writing it in for him, basically. And then it all became very clear. So it was it was a pretty great idea, actually. I'm going to blame Michael Eisner. I don't know if it started with him, but so good job on that one, Michael.
But he would have been the most recognizable name on the film at the time. Ming-Na Wen was big, but she's bigger now than she was at that time.
And she wasn't big. What they did is Joy Luck Club. I don't know if you remember that. That movie had come out just while we were working on Milan, but it was just maybe, we'll say, within the last year of that while we were working on Milan. And we just rated Joy Luck Club. We just almost, if you go through Milan and look at Joy Luck Club, a lot of those actors became voices in Milan, and Ming-Na Wen especially. Was
there similar personnel for like behind the scenes, like director and writers? Because I don't off the top of my head, I don't remember who made that movie.
No, no, there was nothing other than we were all looking, and when I say we, I'm meaning more like my brother actually co-directed Milan. So I'm going to say my brother and Barry Cook, the other director, plus the producers, the higher ups were all looking for. I had my head down. I was just trying to design Mushu at that time. So I was not involved in any of that. I was just like, just tell me when you got something and I'll do an animation test. And so back to your question, yeah, I did do some animation tests before Eddie had signed the contract. They were just like, we think we want to do it with him. So I got a line from Trading Places. It even had an F-bomb in it. It was so weird animating at Disney with an F-bomb in the now nobody's going to see it, and nobody has really since. But I did a whole animation test of Mushu with him saying, no, he's like, I'm a karate kid, back up. It's when he's in the jail. It may not be Trading Places now that I think of it. What was the one where he did, where he was like the chosen one? Anybody?
I don't think I ever saw that.
It's actually a fun movie. Well, anyway.
Well, I think one thing the audience is hearing that a lot of people might not be aware of, and that they're probably learning from the first time hearing you talk about this, is how much an animated film changes through the production process and how different the final product is from that initial treatment or even the initial draft of the screenplay. Now, part of this is because artists are mercurial people and want to change things over time, but another part is as you're working on any animated project, as you're looking over, sometimes like it's executives making decisions about what's going to be more marketable, but sometimes it's just you're working on it and you're realizing like this, I thought this would work, but it would be better if we did it this way. And I'm curious, like, how many designs did you go through as you were making Mushu? How different was what ended up being approved from what initially appeared in your head?
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, it was hundreds. You know, I would come in for, and actually the process of designing him was almost 6 months, which is nuts. But, and I got really bored of it after a while. I'm just drawing it. Oh, you want more dragons? Okay. I would just do, oh, now it's a bigger nose. Now it's a smaller nose. You know, like, and actually we probably refined it down to what 90% of what Mushu looks like now, probably within the first, say, 4 months. And then from there, it was just little tweaks, and the Disney perfectionism. And then starting to do the model sheets and then doing animation tests was all part of that 6 months probably. But, and really, once you have a design, even when you're like, all right, we think we got it, you know, we're about 90% there, we'll say. Doing an animation test really pays off because now you're animating, you're doing different expressions, you're having him turn in space and he's moving and gesturing, and you just have new challenges that come up when you're bringing a character to life that you don't think about when you're just doing a model sheet. Now here's him angry, here's him sad, here's him whatever, you know, very basic. Yeah. You get into the subtleties,
well, and
like that.
Before we move on from the design, because this is fascinating for me, how much of the changes in design that happened towards the end were just creative decisions versus how much of it was Disney like testing these things or focus grouping them or asking people or executives what they thought would be more marketable? Like how much of this was changes made for creative reasons and how much was Disney thinking, well, this is going to get us a larger audience, this is going to make us more money?
You know, I remember I came on to Milan, I think some of my oldest drawings, versions of Mushu, early versions are dated 95. So I think it was around 95-ish that I came on, and I think it didn't come out till 98.
I think it was 97, 98.
So I was on it for quite a few years there. But during that was a while back, right, is my point. And they didn't do as much, or they didn't tell us about it, I must admit. You know, like a lot, I'm sure they were doing the focus groups and things like that. We would rarely hear about it. Mm-hmm. It was very kind of upper, and marketing. It was more on the marketing side, and we were very kind of separated from all the marketing and things like that. And so all of a sudden you'd be working on a movie, oh, and the title changed. What? Mm-hmm. You know, it would kind of come out of the blue sometimes, you know. We were the Legend of Fa Mulan. That was the title for the first 6 to 8 months, and then it became Fa Mulan, and then it just became Mulan. And so...
Thanks for watching this clip from the Culture War podcast. We're live every Friday, 10 a.m. to noon, so subscribe and come hang out.